Everyone treats summer like it owes you happiness. Long days, pool parties, your best life on a loop. So what does it mean when you feel worse? The summer blues are real. It's why summer is one of the busiest stretches of the year for people starting therapy. Therapy is not only for when you're in crisis. Growth therapy is for all the moments when you decide you want more. More support, more clarity, more tools. Mental health isn't a destination you reach. It's something you build, and Grow makes that easier. Grow connects you with thousands of high-quality licensed therapists across the U.S., offering both virtual and in-person sessions, nights and weekends. You can search by what matters, like insurance, specialty, identity, or availability, and get started in as little as 2 days. There are no subscriptions, no long-term commitments. You just pay per session. Grow helps you find therapy on your time. The therapist you want takes your insurance on Grow. Grow accepts over 125 insurance plans. Sessions average $21 with insurance, and some pay as little as $0 depending on their plan. Visit growtherapy.com/booknow today to get started. That's growtherapy.com/booknow. growtherapy.com/booknow. Availability and coverage vary by state and insurance plan. Most people don't realize how much of their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making millions pulling details about you from public records and the internet, then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might just sell credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/hidden. Protect yourself now at aura.com/hidden.
The train is climbing. Out of Cairns and up into the range, into rainforest so thick that even the sunlight comes through, tinged with green. It struggles along a ledge cut into the side of the mountain, in and out of the dark of one tunnel, and then onto the next. It is breathtaking scenery up here, like nothing else that you'll find in this vast land. There are 3 girls sitting facing each other near the middle of the carriage. They're all 16 years old, gone out for the day. They'd meant to catch the tourist train up to Kuranda, the one everyone catches, but they'd missed it by a few minutes. It's the early 70s, and hairstyles, like the ones the girls are sporting, take time and care, and so they were running a few minutes late. And as a result, they find themselves on this train instead, the ordinary service, the one that carries the mail and the goods. And on this particular day, unbeknownst to the girls and to most of the general public, it also carries the pay. The train, unexpectedly, stops. There's a rock on the line ahead, a large one, and the driver has pulled up short of it, thankfully. For a moment, nothing happens. Quiet. And then a man leaps up into the carriage. He's in black from head to foot, black leathers, a full-faced helmet with the visor down, and in his hands, a shotgun with the barrel sawn short. One of the girls smiles. She thinks it's some kind of show, that someone is putting on a bit of theatre. Bushrangers for the tourists, perhaps, and so she stands up with her camera to take his picture. The gun instantly swings toward her, and the man is down the aisle in a flash, motioning with the barrel. Down, get down. And the girls understand now that nothing about this has been arranged for anyone's entertainment. They slide off their seats onto the floor of the carriage and they stay there, trembling, tears welling up in the corner of their eyes. Outside, a gunshot, and then another, and one of the shots tears a hole clean through the wall of the luggage compartment. Welcome back to Strewth. I'm your storyteller, Mark, and today we're covering a couple of tales, decades and miles apart, but with some significant similarities. On the 6th of December 1973, on one of the most remote stretches of railway in the country, two men stopped a train in the mountains above Cairns and took the payroll off it at gunpoint. 35 years earlier, on a different line, in country that could not have looked more different, another Queensland railway payroll vanished, and another railway man carried the suspicion for the rest of his days. Two robberies, two guards in the frame, two files that have never closed, and this is a story of both. The line that climbs from Cairns to Kuranda was built in the 1880s and 90s by men with picks and shovels and black powder, cutting a ledge into the side of the range through some of the steepest, wettest country in Queensland. 15 tunnels in total, a string of bridges over gorges and creeks. It is a masterpiece of engineering, and its completion was a testament to the human spirit. The line curls back on itself around the mountainside, high above the water, in and out of the rainforest the whole way up. People then and now come from all over to ride it. It is still counted as one of the great railway journeys in the country. But it wasn't all for show. It was a working line as well. Beyond Kuranda, the rails carried on across the tablelands towards Ravenshoe. And along that whole length, there were, at the time, men employed to keep the track sound. Fettlers and gangers living out in the small settlements, mending the line by hand. And every fortnight they were paid in cash. The cash, of course, went up the line by train. A pay clerk carried it in lockboxes, and it was handed out along the way, packet by packet, to men who signed for it, and then went back to work. It was a well-known routine, and it had run like that for years, and everyone who worked the railway in the far north knew it existed. And on the morning of the 6th of December 1973, the boxes held a little over $7,300. In the money of the day, that was a serious amount of cash, the better part of $80,000 in today's terms. And it was loaded aboard an 1800 class rail motor, number 1819, a self-powered carriage hauling a single trailer behind it. At a little before 10 in the morning, the motor pulled out of Cairns and started up the range. There were about 15 people aboard, ordinary passengers on an ordinary Thursday. The rail motor climbs into the range and comes to the approach to the number 6 tunnel, about 20 kilometres out of Cairns. The guard, a man named Clive Abdi, is up near the driver's compartment. The connecting door is open, and through it he can see the line ahead. And on the line, there's a rock. It's not unusual along this line. Rockfall is pretty common, something guards like Clive are well versed in keeping an eye out for. So the driver brings the motor to a stand, and Abdi climbs down to clear the track. He reaches the rock and realises pretty quickly that he can't move it. It's far too big for one man, and it's not rolled there on its own. Someone has set it square across the line, in a cutting where nothing falls by accident. He's still standing over it, in the mist, scratching his head, working it all out. When the two men come out of the tunnel, they're both in black, helmets down, Visors closed. One walks to the rear of the motor with a chain and binds the back wheel to the rail so it can't turn. The other steps up into the carriage with the shotgun. Inside, the passengers are put on the floor. One of the girls, as we've mentioned, half rises with a camera, but is waved down hard and fast, and they lie flat between the seats and keep still. Back out on the track, Abdi hears that first shot and sees pay packets spill and thinks in that instant that the escort has been shot. But no one is hit. The shotgun has gone through the bulkhead of the luggage van, not through a man. A warning shot, perhaps. The two bandits work fast and they work calm. There is no scramble for the right box, no wasted second, because they know exactly which box holds the pay and where to find it. They gather up the loot, and just as quickly as they arrived, they're gone. Out the door on the downhill side of the line and into the drain. It's an open stormwater drain, cut to carry the wet season down off the range, and it falls away below the rail into the rainforest. It was exactly the same drain they came up an hour earlier to get themselves into position, and they've been laying in wait ever since, ready to pounce. It was only luck that Ron Barter, up in the driver's cab, happened to be watching the exact spot they re-entered the drain just as they made their escape. He caught a glimpse of them, quick and certain, moving like men who have been here before. Two figures dropping into the drain with the boxes and going underneath the line, and then into the ferns, which quickly helped them to fade into darkness. Below the rail and out of sight, dirt bikes are waiting to provide the final leg of the getaway. The engines kick over, and the passengers lying flat between the seats, who can't see a thing, hear it plainly. The hard little snarl of two bikes opening up and running away down the mountain, down toward the coast, until the sound thins out into bird call and running water, and at the end of it, silence. People on the range would say afterwards that in the weeks before, there had been motorcyclists up along the line. Riders where no riders had reason to be, on a working railway that climbs to nowhere in particular. At the time, nobody thought a thing of it. But now, these sightings add to the piling collection of evidence that this was a thoroughly planned and executed job. And so although a sense of calm is now settled across it, the train can't move. The chain attached by the bandits has seen to that, and the rail motor has no radio aboard. And so the driver, Ron Barter, climbs down onto the track and starts walking. 3 kilometres up the line to the little station at Stony Creek to reach a telephone and raise the alarm. By the time he does, the robbers have had the better part of an hour and a half. They're well off the mountain and gone into the country beyond. And from that morning to this, no one has ever laid eyes on them again. But the police certainly tried, especially early on. They threw up roadblocks on the roads around Cairns and around the range. They put men into the rainforest to search the drains and the trails. They pulled in railway workers and questioned them, one after the other, for days. But all of it came to absolutely nothing. There were no useful sightings, no abandoned dirt bikes, no notes turning up in a hurry. The two men had planned their way in and planned their way out, and carried the whole thing off with the pomp and swagger of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. The detective heading the Cairns investigation, James Bidner, told reporters the day after that this was the work of people who knew their business. They knew what to do, he said, how to do it, and when to do it. The railway had been watched, and the choice of day was no accident. And all of that pointed in an uncomfortable direction. To know the run, to know the right day, to know the one spot on the line where a train could be stopped with no house and no witness for miles. You had to know the railway from the inside out. And so quietly, the theory calcified around the idea that one of the men who knew the railway had been involved. That suspicion found Clive Abdy, the guard. He had, it emerged, asked his employer for time off around that period. He'd mentioned he was thinking of going away. To the investigators, that request had a certain whiff about it. A man arranging to be elsewhere, or perhaps a man expecting to come into some money. They formed the view quickly that the guard at the very centre of the hold-up might be the mastermind behind it. They knew, he said later, how much he had in the bank. And they had made their minds up. He was questioned, hard, but he was never charged, because there was nothing to charge him with. The trip he had been planning, he always said, was to Townsville, and there was nothing remarkable about it. If he'd come into real money, Townsville wouldn't be his first choice destination. But nothing was ever proven against anyone else, and a suspicion of that kind, once it fastens onto a man, tends to stay stuck. Decades on, Abdy was still defending his name. His own view never shifted. He believed that the theory was sound, and that it was indeed an inside job. He is quick to add, though, that a significant number of people in and around Cairns at the time knew the payroll went up the line every fortnight. Every single person who worked the line for a start. His name was the one selected only because he had the misfortune of being rostered on that day. Nothing more. And there were other witnesses available who might have been able to help the police find the culprits. However, they were never asked. The three girls left their names at the ticket office in Cairns before they caught their ride home, in case anyone wanted a statement. No one ever rang them. One of them, Joe Brown, did not speak about it publicly until 50 years afterwards. And what stayed with her, more than anything, was the strangeness of that first second. The certainty that it was a performance, and then the gun coming around pointing directly at her. After that, the file went quiet. Asked about the case on its 50th anniversary, the Queensland police could not say where it stood. No one's ever been charged. No money was ever recovered. Two men in black leathers climbed down a drain in the rainforest above Cairns, started two trail bikes, and rode out of the record together. The perfect heist.
Summer has a way of filling your home with light. But with more light comes more glare, more heat, less privacy. That's where Hunter Douglas can help. For decades, they've designed shades that do more than complement your windows. They give you control over the light in your home. This summer, as the sun shines brighter and lingers longer, imagine reducing glare without sacrificing the view, keeping rooms cooler, protecting your furnishings, and creating privacy without closing yourself off from the world. Every Hunter Douglas shade is custom crafted and professionally installed, ensuring a flawless fit and a finish that feels intentional. Because it is. It's an upgrade you see immediately and appreciate every single day. There's a showroom in your area where you can get Hunter Douglas shades. Ready to get started? Visit windowvangogh.me or call 303-476-8700. That's windowvango.net.
If your fashion wish list lives rent-free in your brain, you need to be on Poshmark. With Poshmark, you're shopping millions of listings from thousands of closets, each curated by someone with their own style. Vintage finds, designer pieces, and everyday staples all in one place. Search for your favorites or let the discovery come to you. Poshmark makes it easy to find what you actually want to wear at prices that feel like a quiet win. Download the Poshmark app today and use code PODCAST10 when you sign up to get $10 off your first purchase.
But the Kuranda hold-up was not the first robbery of its kind on the Queensland railways. 35 years before it, there'd been another, and the two of them line up almost point for point in everything but the country they happened in. The same target, a railway payroll, wages for working men moving by train. The same result, never solved. And once again, a railway man left holding the suspicion. And for this yarn, we're going to have to leave the rainforest and head inland, and back to the winter of 1938. In 1938, Mount Isa was a mining town set down smack bang in the middle of nowhere. It still pretty much is. Hundreds of kilometres inland, out where the country goes perfectly flat and hard and dry. The mine paid its men the way the railway up north would later pay its fettlers, in cash brought in by mail train up the long single line from Townsville, through Cloncurry and onwards towards the Isa. On the 31st of August 1938, that train was carrying £3,000 in banknotes, the mine's payroll, made up into mail bags and locked in the van. It was carrying something else too, tucked in among the ordinary post, a parcel of dress material, silk in red and yellow and ochre and black and white, and a card of green buttons. These were ordered from David Jones in Sydney by a woman named Eileen Cameron of Mount Isa. £3.12 of dressmaking materials, travelling in the same van as the mine's fortnightly wages. The bank had always taken precautions with this money. Before the cash left, every note had its serial number and its denomination written down and recorded. The reasoning was straightforward. If the cash were ever stolen and the thief ever tried to spend it, the marked numbers would surface and give him away the first time he shouted the bar or made a similarly foolish choice with his newfound wealth. And on that trip, somewhere past Cloncurry, in the dark, someone opened that van. There was no boulder on the line here, no shotgun, nothing to bring the crew running. Whoever it was had time and knew exactly what to do with it. The money bags were closed at the neck with string tied off under a wax seal so that any interference would show at once. But these bandits were professionals. The string was not broken, it was cut cleanly below the seal, and the notes were drawn out, all £3,000 of them, painstakingly extracted, and the string was retied. Retied so carefully, so exactly, that the seal sat back where it had been and the bag looked precisely as a full bag should. The bandits then slipped away, back into the darkness with those notes, and the train carried the theft on into the dark, tidy and sealed and silent, all the way to Mount Isa. The mail train pulls into Mount Isa at the break of morning. And at first nothing is clearly amiss. The staff sit down for a cup of tea before they get to the task of unloading the goods. It's only when one of the porters goes to unlock the mail van that anyone notices a problem. The key won't take. He looks down at his jangled mess of keys and ensures he's got the right one. And he tries it again. But it just won't fit. Maybe he was mistaken about which key it was, so he tries several more, one after the other. Nothing. A more experienced colleague, a man who has opened this van door 1,000 times, comes over, noticing his mate's increasing frustration. "Give him to me," he grumbles. "I'll do it." But this more experienced colleague quickly realises that the issue is not with the key itself. "It's the wrong bloody padlock," he yells, and both men realise the potential gravity of this situation immediately. Someone goes quickly for a hacksaw, and the two men take it in turns at the shackle, the blade squealing on the steel until it finally parts and the lock drops onto the floor and the door rolls back on its runners. Inside, everything is where it should be, and the tension, for the moment at least, settles. Maybe they were overreacting. The younger porter lifts one of the money bags down to hand across and stops. It's too light. There is no real weight to it at all, nothing like £3,000. He turns, slowly, and holds the bag out to the other man, without a word. The seal is whole, the string is tied. By every sign anyone would think to check, the bag has not been opened since it left the bank. And so one of them breaks it open and finds what is not there. The money is gone, lifted clean out, and the bag done up again behind it. The parcel from Sydney has gone the same way. The dress silk and the green buttons that a woman named Eileen Cameron is still waiting on up in Mount Isa. And 2 railwaymen stand in an open van at the end of the line, a sawn lock in one hand and a hollow bag in the other, a long way from wherever all the cash has gone. No one could say how it had been done, or by how many hands. The police, looking at how cleanly it had all gone, could not decide whether they were chasing one man or a gang. A single patient operator who knew the run, or a team who had shared the work between them. Whoever it was had known the Townsville to Mount Isa line, and the train's timetable, and the duties of the men who crewed it, well enough to work over a mail van in transit and hand it back looking completely untouched. It was a plan so flawlessly executed that there was almost a full day's travel gone by before anyone knew a thing. And the police started to think that they might have seen this hand before. The job on the mail train was the third of its kind on that line. In December 1926, £5,000 belonging to the Queensland National Bank had gone from a mail train. In March 1931, a parcel holding £1,000 was lifted out of a mailbag between Townsville and Cloncurry. The detectives ran the pattern back further still to Cloncurry in 1932, when the Queensland National Bank and the Bank of New South Wales lost more than £14,000 between them to thieves who let themselves in with duplicate keys. The theory they held, and had held for years, was that behind the whole run of it was one clever man, long settled somewhere in the north, who understood exactly how the money moved through that country and exactly how to extract it and leave no sign of himself behind. The money itself had been designed to be the undoing of them. Every note in the mine's payroll had been listed by number before it left the bank, and those numbers went out to police across Queensland and into the southern states, so that the first marked note anyone passed would point straight home to the crooks. And still nothing came of it. In the months that followed, a few odd notes did surface, slipping back into ordinary use around the north and further south, but not one of them led a single officer back to the man, or the men, who had taken them. And yet, for all the talk of a clever operator no one could put a name to, a phantom rail robber, the investigation that followed did fix on a man. A railway guard out of Cloncurry named Francis Walsh. The case against him was built of small things. A length of string was found in his keeping, the same kind used to tie off the mailbags. The same kind that had been cut below the seal and knotted again. And the swapped lock spoke of someone with access to change it unseen. And there was other evidence too, a knife, a metal bag tag. The two detectives who had come up from Brisbane to run the case were Senior Sergeant Marnie and Sergeant Lloyd. And Marnie was the very man who had worked the Cloncurry bank robbery of 1932, one of the crimes police believed were all the work of that same clever northern hand. And piece by small piece, they built a story around Walsh and his capability of pulling this job off single-handedly, and they arrested him for it. They went to a police court, and a magistrate named Power heard the matter out over several weeks. He weighed all the evidence, the string, the lock, the knife, the rest of it, and he found it far too thin to stand on. There was simply not enough there to commit Francis Walsh for trial, and he was discharged. And here, Walsh did something perhaps rather unexpected. He fought back. Cleared but not cleared, his name now welded to a robbery he swore he had nothing to do with. He took the two Brisbane detectives, Marnie and Lloyd, to court and sued them for wrongful arrest. He had been taken up and charged, he argued, for a crime the evidence could not support, and it had cost him his good name. But the judge did not agree. And in the middle of 1939, Justice Douglas found for the detectives. The evidence had not been enough to convict Walsh, he ruled, but it had been enough to justify arresting him in the first place. And the policemen had acted within their rights, and they were awarded their costs. And so Walsh walked out of the courtroom having lost twice over, once as a suspect and once as a plaintiff, with the suspicion still on him and the robbery still open behind him, unsolved. And unsolved it stayed for 66 years. And then, in February 2005, a man walked into the police station at Mount Isa and asked to speak to detectives. He wanted to tell them about his great uncle, who had died recently, an old man, well up into his 90s. And on his deathbed, the old man had made a confession. Not to a murder, which is the sort of thing detectives half expected to hear, but to a robbery. The mine payroll, taken off the train back in 1938. He and two others had done it, he said, and they'd used the money to set themselves up. And over the years they'd done well enough out of it. The police looked into what they'd been told. There was barely a file left to reopen, nothing like an active investigation. A crime so old, the records had all but disappeared. But they made their inquiries, and they came away satisfied that the account that the old man gave on his deathbed held together. And one of the officers put it plainly enough. They knew now who had done it, and there was nothing to be done about it. The man who confessed was dead. The other two, as far as anyone could establish, were dead as well. There was no one left to arrest, no one to charge, and no money to recover, because it had all been spent quietly, decades before, by three men who lived out ordinary and reasonably comfortable lives on the strength of one night's work, and carried their secret almost to the grave. We don't know their names though. That was never shared, but the police do. What we do know is that someone reached a locked mail van in the middle of that long run in the dark past Cloncurry, and then they were gone, slipped away back into the vast country with no road worth a name and no town for miles, £3,000 going with them. Whether they were on the train the entire time, or whether they rode out there on horseback and met it in the darkness, no one ever really worked that out. Not a soul on the crew saw anyone get on or off, or felt the train do a single thing it should not have. At least they never admitted to it. And so what we're left with is three young men. Men that were as smart with spending the money as they were with getting hold of it. They didn't do anything stupid or lavish, or the cops would have followed the trail of the marked note straight back to them. Instead, they used it to set themselves up, possibly their families too. And quietly, in that part of northern Queensland, these blokes became legends. 2 trains then. One in the rainforest high above Cairns, one on the dark run west to Mount Isa, 35 years apart. Both carrying the wages of working men. One taken at gunpoint with a rock on the line, and the other lifted so quietly that a full day went by before anyone knew about it. Both never answered for. And in both, a railway man, the guard whose job was to mind the very thing that went missing, was left standing in the frame long after everyone else had gone home. Clive Abdi carried that suspicion for 50 years and never got his answer. And Francis Walsh had his name cleared decades too late. Strewth. Thanks again for hanging out with me for another couple of Australian yarns. I really appreciate all the support we've been receiving over the last months, really, not just few weeks. But again, things are going from strength to strength, and I really appreciate it. Every single time you tell a mate, click a like button, follow, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. It means the world to me. If you can't get enough Strewth, there's a bonus episode out there waiting for you every week. I think we're up to about 23 now on Strewth Premium. Check it out on Patreon or on Apple subscriptions. You also get ad-free early access to our regular feed as a member of Strewth Premium as well. But that's it from me in my shed here in Tasmania. Next week we're heading back down south to Victoria, Wangaratta in fact, for a heartbreaking and infuriating missing persons case. I look forward to sharing that tale with you next week. Uru.
This summer, turn your gifting game up during the Summer Plant and Garden Sale at 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now, you can score up to 30% off succulents, bonsais, fresh-cut blooms, and more. Whether you're celebrating a birthday, sending a thank you, or a just-because surprise, 1-800-Flowers lets you save big on a stunning selection of gifts. Save up to 30% off during the Summer Plant and Garden Sale at 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast. Gift something unforgettable today.
We learned how to love dogs from the dogs that loved us and waited for us to get home from school. They were the dogs that raised us. We returned the love with Pedigree dog food. It was good then, and it's better now. Every bowl has 100% complete nutrition, supporting 6 health essentials. And now it includes Vitamin Good Bites, a nutrient boost your dog will love. Pedigree. Good then, better now.
Some people use ChatGPT to answer questions. Others use it to get real work done. With ChatGPT Work, you bring the goal, plus real inputs like briefs, notes, files, feedback, data, and project plans. It can help turn them into an analysis, tracker, deck outline, prototype, or workflow you can review and keep shaping. You stay in control, giving direction and choosing the final output. Put ChatGPT to work on your most ambitious ideas and projects. Get started at chatgpt.com by selecting Work Mode. Available on Plus and Pro plans.
Some so-called SUVs feel more like toys. You need a real vehicle that'll handle real life. A real SUV, like the all-new 2027 Kia Seltos. With its best-in-class interior room, it'll make the others feel like toys. Check out the new 2027 Kia Seltos X-Line. It's real-world ready. Kia, movement that inspires. Limited inventory available. Comparison based on publicly available data regarding cargo room in 2026 entry all-wheel drive CUVs as of May 2026. Entry all-wheel drive CUV class as defined by Kia segmentation.